I want a hero, an uncommon want when every year and month sends forth a new one, till after cloying the gazettes with cant the age discovers he is not the true one. Of such as these I should not care to vaunt. I'll therefore take our ancient friend Don Juan. We all have seen him, in the pantomime sent to the devil somewhat ere his time. In Seville was he born, a pleasant city, famous for oranges and women. He who has not seen it will be much to pity, so says the proverb, and I quite agree. Of all the Spanish towns is none more pretty. Cadiz, perhaps, but that you soon may see. Don Juan's parents lived beside the river, a noble stream, and called the Guadalquivir. His father's name was Jose, Don, of course. A true hidalgo, free from every stain of Moor or Hebrew blood, he traced his source to the most Gothic gentleman of Spain. A better cavalier ne'er mounted horse, or being mounted ere got down again, than Jose, who begot our hero, who begot... but that's to come. Well, to renew. His mother was a learned lady, famed for every branch of every science known, in every Christian language ever named, with virtues equalled by her wit alone. She made the cleverest people quite ashamed, and even the good with inward envy groan, finding themselves so very much exceeded in their own way by all the things that she did. Sagest of women, even of widows, she resolved that Juan should be quite a paragon, and worthy of the noblest pedigree. His sire was of Castile, his dam from Aragon. Then, for accomplishments of chivalry, in case our lord the king should go to war again, he learned the arts of riding, fencing, gunnery, and how to scale a fortress, or a nunnery. But that which Donna Inez most desired, and saw into herself each day before all the learned tutors whom for him she hired, was that his breeding should be strictly moral. Much into all his studies she inquired, and so they were submitted first to her, all. Arts, sciences, no branch was made a mystery to Juan's eyes, excepting natural history. The languages, especially the dead, the sciences, and most of all the abstruse, the arts, at least all such as could be said to be the most remote from common use, in all these he was much and deeply read, but not a page of anything that's loose, or hints continuation of the species, was ever suffered, lest he should grow vicious. His classic studies made a little puzzle because of filthy loves of gods and goddesses who in the earlier ages raised a bustle but never put on pantaloons or bodices. His reverend tutors had at times a tussle, and for their Aeneids, Iliads, and Odysseys were forced to make an odd sort of apology, for Donna Inez dreaded the mythology. Ovid's a rake, as half his verses show him. Anacreon's morals are a still worse sample. Catullus scarcely has a decent poem. I don't think Sappho's Ode a good example, although Longinus tells us there is no hymn where the sublime soars forth on wings more ample. But Virgil's songs are pure, except that horrid one beginning with Formosum Pastor Corydon. Young Juan now was 16 years of age. Tall, handsome, slender, but well-knit. He seemed active, though not so sprightly as a page. And everybody but his mother deemed him almost man, but she flew in a rage and bit her lips, for else she might have screamed, if any said so. For to be precocious was in her eyes a thing the most atrocious. Amongst her numerous acquaintance, all selected for discretion and devotion, there was the Donna Julia, whom to call pretty were but to give a feeble notion of many charms in her as natural as sweetness to the flower or salt to ocean, her zone to Venus or his bow to Cupid. But this last simile is trite and stupid. The darkness of her oriental eye accorded with her Moorish origin. Her blood was not all Spanish, by the by. In Spain, you know, this is a sort of sin. When proud Granada fell and forced to fly, Boabdil wept. Of Donna Julia's kin, some went to Africa, some stayed in Spain. Her great-great-grandmamma chose to remain. Her eye, I'm very fond of handsome eyes, was large and dark, suppressing half its fire until she spoke. Then, through its soft disguise, flashed an expression more of pride than ire, and love than either. And there would arise a something in them which was not desire, but would have been, perhaps, but for the soul which struggled through and chastened down the whole. Wedded she was some years, and to a man of 50, and such husbands are in plenty. And yet I think instead of such a one, 'twere better to have 2 of 5 and 20, especially in countries near the sun. And now I think on't, mi viene in mente, ladies even of the most uneasy virtue prefer a spouse whose age is short of 30. 'Tis a sad thing, I cannot choose but say, and all the fault of that indecent sun, who cannot leave alone our helpless clay, but will keep baking, broiling, burning on, that howsoever people fast and pray, the flesh is frail, and so the soul undone. What men call gallantry and God's adultery is much more common where the climate's sultry. Happy the nations of the moral north, where all is virtue, and the winter season sends sin without a rag on shivering forth. 'Twas snow that brought St. Anthony to reason, where juries cast up what a wife is worth by laying whate'er sum in mulct they please on the lover, who must pay a handsome price, because it is a marketable vice. Juan she saw, and as a pretty child caressed him often. Such a thing might be quite innocently done and harmless styled when she had 20 years and 13 he. But I am not so sure I should have smiled when he was 16, Julia 23. These few short years make wondrous alterations, particularly amongst sunburnt nations. Whate'er the cause might be, they had become changed, for the dame grew distant, the youth shy, their looks cast down, their greetings almost dumb, and much embarrassment in either eye. There surely will be little doubt with some that Donna Julia knew the reason why, but as for Juan, he had no more notion than he who never saw the sea of ocean. Such love is innocent, and may exist between young persons without any danger. A hand may first, and then a lip be kissed. For my part, to such doings I'm a stranger, but here these freedoms form the utmost list of all o'er which such love may be a ranger. If people go beyond, 'tis quite a crime, but not my fault. I tell them all in time. Love, then, but love within its proper limits, was Julia's innocent determination in young Don Juan's favour, and to him its exertion might be useful on occasion, and lighted at too pure a shrine to dim its ethereal lustre, with what sweet persuasion he might be taught by love and her together, I really don't know what, nor Julia either. Fraught with this fine intention, and well fenced in mail of proof, her purity of soul, she, for the future of her strength convinced, and that her honour was a rock or mole, exceeding sagely from that hour dispensed with any kind of troublesome control. But whether Julia to the task was equal is that which must be mentioned in the sequel. So much for Julia. Now we'll turn to Juan. Poor little fellow, he had no idea of his own case, and never hit the true one. In feelings quick as Ovid's Miss Medea, he puzzled over what he found a new one, but not as yet imagined it could be a thing quite in course, and not at all alarming, which, with a little patience, might grow charming. He thought about himself and the whole earth, of man the wonderful, and of the stars, and how the deuce they ever could have birth. And then he thought of earthquakes and of wars, how many miles the moon might have in girth, of air balloons, and of the many bars to perfect knowledge of the boundless skies. And then he thought of Donna Julia's eyes. It was upon a day, a summer's day. Summer's indeed a very dangerous season, and so is spring about the end of May. The sun, no doubt, is the prevailing reason. But whatsoe'er the cause is, one may say and stand convicted of more truth than treason, that there are months which nature grows more merry in. March has its hares, and May must have its heroine. 'Twas on the 6th of June, about the hour of 6:30, perhaps still nearer 7, when Julia sat within as pretty a bower as e'er held houri in that heathenish heaven described by Mahomet and Anacreon Moor, to whom the lyre and laurels have been given with all the trophies of triumphant song. He won them well, and may he wear them long. She sat, but not alone. I know not well how this same interview had taken place, and even if I knew, I should not tell. People should hold their tongues in any case, no matter how or why the thing befell. But there were she and Juan face to face. When two such faces are so, 'twould be wise, but very difficult, to shut their eyes. The sun set, and up rose the yellow moon. The devil's in the moon for mischief. They who called her chaste, methinks, began too soon their nomenclature. There is not a day, the longest, not the 21st of June, sees half the business in a wicked way, on which 3 single hours of moonshine smile, and then she looks so modest all the while. There is a dangerous silence in that hour, a stillness which leaves room for the full soul to open all itself without the power of calling wholly back its self-control. The silver light which, hallowing tree and tower, sheds beauty and deep softness o'er the whole, breathes also to the heart, and o'er it throws a loving languor which is not repose. And Julia sat with Juan, half embraced and half retiring from the glowing arm which trembled like the bosom where 'twas placed. Yet still she must have thought there was no harm, or else 'twas easy to withdraw her waist. But then the situation had its charm, and then... God knows what next. I can't go on. I'm almost sorry that I have begun. Oh, Plato, Plato, you have paved the way with your confounded fantasies to more immoral conduct by the fancied sway your system feigns o'er the controlless core of human hearts than all the long array of poets and romancers. You're a bore, a charlatan, a coxcomb, and have been, at best, no better than a go-between. And Julia's voice was lost, except in sighs, until too late for useful conversation. The tears were gushing from her gentle eyes. I wish, indeed, they had not had occasion, but who, alas, can love and then be wise? Not that remorse did not oppose temptation. A little still she strove, and much repented, and whispering,
I will now consent.
Consented. We'll talk of that anon. 'Tis sweet to hear at midnight on the blue and moonlit deep the song and oar of Adria's gondolier by distance mellowed o'er the water's sweep. 'Tis sweet to see the evening star appear. 'Tis sweet to listen as the night winds creep from leaf to leaf. 'Tis sweet to view on high the rainbow based on ocean span the sky. 'Tis sweet to hear the watchdog's honest bark bay deep-mouthed welcome as we draw near home. 'Tis sweet to know there is an eye will mark our coming and look brighter when we come. 'Tis sweet to be awakened by the lark or lulled by falling waters. Sweet the hum of bees, the voice of girls, the song of birds, the lisp of children and their earliest words. Sweet is the vintage when the showering grapes in bacchanal profusion reel to earth purple and gushing. Sweet are our escapes from civic revelry to rural mirth. Sweet to the miser are his glittering heaps. Sweet to the father is his firstborn's birth. Sweet is revenge, especially to women, pillage to soldiers, prize money to seamen. Sweet is a legacy, and passing sweet the unexpected death of some old lady or gentleman of 70 years complete, who've made us youth wait too long already for an estate or cash or country seat, still breaking, but with stamina so steady that all the Israelites are fit to mob its next owner for their double-damned post-obits. 'Tis sweet to win, no matter how, one's laurels, by blood or ink. 'Tis sweet to put an end to strife. 'Tis sometimes sweet to have our quarrels, particularly with a tiresome friend. Sweet is old wine in bottles, ale in barrels. Dear is the helpless creature we defend against the world, and dear the schoolboy's spot we ne'er forget, though there we are forgot. But sweeter still than this, than these, than all, is first and passionate love. It stands alone, like Adam's recollection of his fall. The tree of knowledge has been plucked, all's known, and life yields nothing further to recall worthy of this ambrosial sin, so shown, no doubt in fable, as the unforgiven fire which Prometheus filched for us from heaven. Man's a phenomenon, one knows not what, and wonderful beyond all wondrous measure. 'Tis pity, though, in this sublime world that pleasure's a sin, and sometimes sin's a pleasure. Few mortals know what end they would be at, but whether glory, power, or love, or treasure, the path is through perplexing ways. And when the goal is gained, we die, you know. And then... what then? I do not know, no more do you, and so good night. Return we to our story. 'Twas in November, when fine days are few, and the far mountains wax a little hoary, and clap a white cape on their mantles blue, and the sea dashes round the promontory, and the loud breaker boils against the rock, and sober suns must set at 5 o'clock. 'Twas midnight. Donna Julia was in bed, sleeping, most probably, when at her door arose a clatter might awake the dead, if they had never been awoke before, and that they have been, so we all have read, and are to be so at the least once more. The door was fastened, but with voice and fist first knocks were heard, then...
Madam, madam, hist! For God's sake, madam, madam, here's my master, with more than half the city at his back. Was ever heard of such a cursed disaster? 'Tis not my fault, I kept good watch, alack! Do pray undo the bolt a little faster. They're on the stair just now, and in a crack we'll all be here. Perhaps he yet may fly. Surely the window's not so very high.
By this time Don Alfonso was arrived, with torches, friends, and servants in great number. The major part of them had long been wived, and therefore paused not to disturb the slumber of any wicked woman who contrived by stealth her husband's temples to encumber. Examples of this kind are so contagious, were one not punished, all would be outrageous. He searched, they searched, and rummaged everywhere, closet and clothes-pressed chest and window seat, and found much linen, lace, and several pair of stockings, slippers, brushes, combs, complete with other articles of ladies' fare to keep them beautiful or leave them neat. Arras they pricked, and curtains with their swords, and wounded several shutters and some boards. Under the bed they searched, and there they found... no matter what, it was not what they sought. They opened windows, gazing if the ground had signs or footmarks, but the earth said naught. And then they stared each other's faces round. 'Tis odd. Not one of all these seekers thought, and seems to me almost a sort of blunder, of looking in the bed as well as under. During this inquisition, Julia's tongue was not asleep.
Yes, search and search,
she cried.
Insult on insult heap, and wrong on wrong. It was for this that I became a bride. For this in silence I have suffered long, a husband like Alfonso at my side. But now I'll bear no more, nor here remain, if there be law or lawyers in all Spain. Yes, Don Alfonso, husband now no more, if ever you indeed deserve the name. Is't worthy of your years? You have 60, 50 or 60, it is all the same. Is't wise or fitting? Causeless to explore for facts against a virtuous woman's fame? Ungrateful, perjured, barbarous Don Alfonso, how dare you think your lady would go on so? Did not the Italian Musico Cazzani sing at my heart 6 months at least in vain? Did not his countryman, Count Corniani, call me the only virtuous wife in Spain? Were there not also Russians, English, many, the Count Stroganoff I put in pain, and Lord Mount Coffeehouse, the Irish peer, who killed himself for love with wine last year? Have I not had 2 bishops at my feet, the Duke of Ica and Don Fernand Nunes? And is it thus a faithful wife you treat? I wonder in what quarter now the moon is. I praise your vast forbearance not to beat me also, since the time so opportune is. Oh, valiant man, with sword drawn and cocked trigger, now tell me, don't you cut a pretty figure?
Alfonso paused a minute, then begun some strange excuses for his late proceeding. He would not justify what he had done. To say the best, it was extreme ill-breeding, but there were ample reasons for it, none of which he specified in this his pleading. His speech was a fine sample on the whole of rhetoric, which the learned call rigmarole. Alfonso closed his speech and begged her pardon, which Julia half withheld and then half granted, and laid conditions he thought very hard on, denying several little things he wanted. He stood like Adam lingering near his garden, with useless penitence perplexed and haunted, beseeching she no further would refuse, when, lo, he stumbled o'er a pair of shoes. A pair of shoes. What then? Not much, if they are such as fit with ladies' feet, but these, no one can tell how much I grieve to say, were masculine. To see them and to seize was but a moment's act. Ah, well a day, my teeth begin to chatter, my veins freeze. Alfonso first examined well their fashion, and then flew out into another passion. He left the room for his relinquished sword, and Julia instant to the closet flew.
Fly, Juan, fly. For heaven's sake, not a word. The door is open. You may yet slip through the passage you so often have explored. Here is the garden key. Fly, fly, adieu. Haste, haste. I hear Alfonso's hurrying feet. Day has not broke. There's no one in the street.
None can say that this was not good advice. The only mischief was it came too late. Of all experience, 'tis the usual price, a sort of income tax laid on by fate. Juan had reached the room door in a trice, and might have done so by the garden gate, but met Alfonso in his dressing gown, who threatened death. So Juan knocked him down. Here ends this canto. Need I sing or say how Juan, naked, favoured by the night, who favours what she should not, found his way and reached his home in an unseemly plight? The pleasant scandal which arose next day, the 9 days' wonder which was brought to light, and how Alfonso sued for a divorce, were in the English newspapers, of course. But Donna Inez, to divert the train of one of the most circulating scandals that had for centuries been known in Spain, at least since the retirement of the Vandals, first vowed, and never had she vowed in vain, to Virgin Mary several pounds of candles, and then, by the advice of some old ladies, she sent her son to be shipped off from Cadiz. She had resolved that he should travel through all European climes by land or sea to mend his former morals and get new, especially in France and Italy. At least this is the thing most people do. Julia was sent into a convent. She grieved, but perhaps her feelings may be better shown in the following copy of her letter.
They tell me 'tis decided you depart. 'Tis wise, 'tis well, but not the less a pain. I have no further claim on your young heart. Mine is the victim, and would be again. To love too much has been the only art I used. I write in haste, and if a stain be on this sheet, 'tis not what it appears. My eyeballs burn and throb, but have no tears. I love you. For this love have lost state, station, heaven, mankind's, my own esteem, and yet cannot regret what it hath cost. So dear is still the memory of that dream. Yet if I name my guilt, 'tis not to boast. None can deem harshlier of me than I deem. I trace this scroll because I cannot rest. I've nothing to reproach or to request. Man's love is of man's life a thing apart. 'Tis woman's whole existence. Man may range the court, camp, church, the vessel and the mart. Sword, gown, gain, glory, offer in exchange pride, fame, ambition to fill up his heart, and few there are whom these cannot estrange. Men have all these resources, we but one, to love again and be again undone. You will proceed in pleasure and in pride, beloved and loving many. All is o'er for me on earth, except some years to hide my shame and sorrow deep in my heart's core. These I could bear, but cannot cast aside the passion which still rages as before. And so, farewell. Forgive me. Love me. No. That word is idle now, but let it go. My breast hath been all weakness, is so yet, but still I think I can collect my mind. My blood still rushes where my spirit's set, as roll the waves before the settled wind. My heart is feminine, nor can forget, to all except one image madly blind. So shakes the needle, and so stands the pole, as vibrates my fond heart to my fixed soul. I have no more to say, but linger still, and dare not set my seal upon this sheet. And yet I may as well the task fulfill. My misery can scarce be more complete. I had not lived till now, could sorrow kill. Death shuns the wretch who fain the blow would meet, and I must even survive this last adieu, and bear with life to love and pray for you.
This note was written upon gilt-edged paper with a neat little crow quill, slight and new. Her small white hand could hardly reach the taper. It trembled as magnetic needles do, and yet she did not let one tear escape her. The seal, a sunflower. Elle vous suit partout, the motto, cut upon a white cornelian. The wax was superfine, its hue vermilion.